discuss this is the Deputy Secretary General of the South African Federation of Trade Union. A very good evening and thank you so much for joining us. Now, SAFTU has always been against this. Any particular reason why, or maybe remind us why?
Good evening to you and your beautiful viewers. SAFTU have rejected the current proposed national minimum wage. One, in that it has not undergone a process of meaningful and adequate consultation that would have brought about better public participation, so to say. But the second aspect is that the national minimum wage as is proposed currently, the minimum at which it's set, it's so low, it becomes meaningless. It doesn't make its desired impact. In any way where you want to introduce a national minimum wage, introduce a national minimum wage to bring about realization of three things in our view. One, to break the levels of poverty we have in the Republic, to address the income inequality that we have in the country, but most importantly, to do away with a wage structure that is of an apartheid colonial times what was brought about two aspects. One of it was race, and the second was purely on the gender. So SAFTU has always been propagating for a decent minimum wage that will bring about the desired change within the lives of the working people.
Okay, what in SAFTU's terms is a decent minimum wage?
Like I said, one is to break away from the past. But what is important that SAFTU have said, look, we're encouraged and inspired by the 2012 workers in the mining sector who demanded 12,500 rand. We believe that's a fair number that could be used to set a national minimum wage. We're inspired by the workers that took farmers in the Western Cape fighting for 150 rand a day. We're inspired by the community health worker, the security guard, and for that matter, social workers within the Johannesburg setup who have demanded 10,000 rand. We believe the economy as it is, it can meaningfully accept and afford to pay each and every working person at 12,500 rand.
Now that the bill has been passed by Parliament, where to from here? What's next? And whatever fight that you're obviously going to put up, any reasonable prospects of success?
No, there is. One thing that I think we must say quite clearly is that we were quite disgusted that the Parliament, through the National Assembly, the Minister of Labour, the Portfolio Committee Chairperson of Labour, and the ANC in their majority decided to pass this bill. We are of the view that they are turning their back to the Freedom Charter, the Morogoro strategy and technique that they have adopted, wherein they were saying post-democratic dispensation they will bring about an introduction of a national minimum wage. We believe that they are doing so because one, COSATU is supporting that for reasons that we don't know, and we believe they are doing so even though they are not necessarily mandated in our view to advance that. Now that the bill has gone through the Portfolio Committee, it has been presented in the National Assembly, it is heading to the National Council of Provinces. We are quite clear. We are going into the National Council of Provinces. We'll make it known as SAFTU, both inside and outside, that we are not quite happy and quite dissatisfied about the process that has been adopted and the substantive aspect of the national minimum. You would appreciate that the minimum wage is coupled with the labor amendment bills. These labor amendment bills do two things. One, they take away workers' hard-earned constitutional rights, including the right to strike, something that we cannot as SAFTU sit and fold our arms and hope that they will come to realization of the damage that they are doing. If the bill gets passed, we'll definitely go to court. But before we even go to court, we'll take another mass action. We believe a 2 to 3 day national strike action would have to be undertaken in this country to bring to government's attention that we cannot legislate poverty, or for that matter, we cannot exchange workers' rights for such a mere kind of a national bill that is being proposed.
The argument, though, is that this minimum wage seeks to improve the lives of the lowest paid workers at the far end of the spectrum, and especially in the labour market, and will address the inequalities in South Africa. No,
it won't. That's why we've been telling this to the Minister of Labour. A national minimum wage is not a company-based negotiation setup. It's not a bargaining council setup where unions and employers negotiate. It is not, for that matter, a sectoral determination as envisaged in the Basic Condition of Employment Act as it is. A national minimum wage is a piece of a legislation and instrument that government should use to bring about real changes in the conditions of the working people within the Republic. You'd appreciate with me that since post-94 to this date, South African working class have not benefited. The capitalist class in this regard, while monopoly capital, have continued to benefit, and unfortunately the ownership patterns within the South African system is quite skewed. So ordinary workers will benefit nothing. This 3,520 rand will be eroded in no time. I can assure you that currently a farm worker that is earning 16 rand 25 cents an hour will only get 1 rand 75 cents. And that 1 rand 75 is if that is going to be realized through enforcement of legislation, which is one of the weakest aspect that you'll find within the Department of Labour, they are worse in terms of ensuring that legislation are enforced. I don't believe, and that's what SAFTU's view has been, that this proposed minimum wage will bring about any change in their lives. It's backward in our view.
And what sort of impact would it have on the economy, particularly in the small business sector?
No, it wouldn't have. Mind you, the current basic condition of employment provide for what we call exemptions. Those small businesses and any other business that is unable to afford to pay have got the right to approach the Department of Labour and make their books open and justify why they can't pay what is there. So as a matter of fact, there is a provision that caters for that. Why then is it the case that CEO of companies in South Africa are paid about 8,625 rand an hour? Some of them are raking in millions and millions of bonuses that, to me, they don't even deserve. And they expect an ordinary worker to toil so hard for a mere 20 rand an hour that cannot even afford to pay for a beggar in this country. So it's quite pathetic and quite irresponsible for people to suggest that South African economy as it is not going to be able to afford to pay a decent national minimum wage. And that's our view. Hence, we have been rejecting this 20 rand with the contempt it deserves.
All right, Deputy SG, thank you so much for joining us.
Most welcome, thank you very much.
The Deputy Secretary of the South African Federation of Trade Unions, Moleko Phakedi. All right, let's go for an ad break now. We'll have more news after the break.